Just a few days ago, I launched the photo editing challenge, which is a fun beginner-friendly editing content. And because I don't want to miss out on all the fun, I decided it's time to create my own entry and give my own spin to it. This is not going to be a tutorial, but rather a speed edit. However, I have actually recorded the whole process from beginning to end with live commentary. So if you're interested in the extended version in which I literally explain every single step, then let me know in the comments. Alright, let me show you what I created. My idea for this entry was to create Buddy and his friends, so his animal friends, in some nice scene. So I went to Unsplash.com, which is my favorite website to source free high quality stock images. There I found a whole bunch of animal photos which I think would fit in my scene. I'm not gonna use all of them, but I just grabbed every single one that I thought might look fun in our composition, and I started to cut out every single one of them. Now, to cut out each and every single one of these animals, I use several different masking techniques. Mostly I use the quick selection brush combined with refine selection and a quick mask to refine the selection and to make the selections and the mask pixel perfect. However, a very important part of the process is sourcing the right images, which makes it a whole lot easier to cut out your subjects. As you understand, most animals actually have fur, and fur is probably the hardest together with hair to cut out. To make this process easier for myself, I am currently working on a fur brush pack which I will probably release in the future. However, it isn't finished yet and I'm still improving on it. So once it is done, I will make sure to let you know, because I know cutting out fur and hair is the worst. As you'll see, making good selections is probably one of the most time-consuming things. However, if done right, it just makes your end result look so much better. And to help you make pixel perfect selections as well, I will soon release a tutorial in which I show you these exact techniques that I'm currently using on all of these animals. Now here with this tiger, you will see my fur brushes in action. So this is actually a little preview of what you're capable of doing. I didn't do a perfect job, and that is mostly because I didn't want to spend 20 hours on this edit, honestly. Since there were so many elements, there were quite many objects to cut out, as you'll see. So yeah, you'll see my fur brushes in action, and you can kind of see how to add real nice furry texture to the edge of your subject with these brushes. Again, they aren't available yet, but once I launch them, I will make sure to let you know. Now, once I finally cut out all the animals, it was time to work on the background. And as you will see, I don't really use the house and the tree and the sky of this image. I will use other images to make a composite. And you are currently watching me using my grass brushes to actually get the grass texture back on the mask. Once that was done, it was time to position my subjects for the first time in the scene and actually try to figure out what would look fun and nice for this image. Because I still didn't have a background, I decided to go back to Unsplash and try something with a city skyline. But after trying it a little bit, I just ditched this plan because I just didn't really work out in the way I wanted to. So in the end, I just went into my own little library and I found a sky that I could use, and later I found some mountains that I could put in the background. Once everything was somehow in place, it was time to kind of blend everything together. So I used adjustment layers, in this case mostly a hue and saturation layer to desaturate the background, and also a levels adjustment layer to kind of fade out the blacks and to lessen the contrast of the image and the background in this case. To match the color of the background and the foreground better, I decided to use a color balance adjustment layer because then I can tweak the highlights, the midtones and the shadows separately. Once I was quite happy with the background and the foreground, it was time to match the contrasts of all subjects. So I used the black and white adjustment layer for this and used levels adjustment layers on each and every single one subject to actually match the dark and the light tones of each subject. The reason why I use a black and white adjustment layer is that you remove all the colors so that you can actually focus on the tones of the image, so the shadows and the highlights in this case. This is a more advanced technique that I also teach in my signature course called The Art of Photo Manipulation, in which I teach literally everything that I know about photo manipulation in Affinity Photo. But also, if there's enough demand from you guys for me to release the 3-hour full-length tutorial with live commentary on this image, I will go over every single one of the techniques that I use to actually cut out these animals, blend them together and so on. So if you're interested in learning all that, let me know down below in the comments. In short, what I'm currently doing is I use a color check layer to just focus on the colors. So we've already matched the contrast of the image. Now it is time to match the colors, and I use color balance adjustment layers on every single one of these images and subjects to actually kind of match them better together. I did make a little mistake here because I forgot to clip one of the color balance adjustment layers to the subject, and so my whole image got messed up, which I'll fix later. Honestly, in this composite, it was just a whole lot of trial and error. Just figure out where to position my subjects and where it would fit best in the scene. Also, what would look nice on the total image. So yeah, that is basically what I was just trying here. Once I somehow felt okay with the position of all the subjects, spoiler, I'm gonna change this up a whole lot afterwards, it was time to kind of blend the images or the subjects in the grass, and I will use grass brushes for this, as you will see. Now all these brushes are available in the Ultimate Brush Bundle, which includes 176 hyper-realistic brushes that are super useful when photo manipulation. As you can see, I use them myself all the time. So if you're interested, all the participants of the photo editing challenge will get a nice discount on this bundle. I'll put the link down below. Of course, when positioning subjects in a new environment, you also have to think about the shadows below the subject and the light source, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. But honestly, I'm gonna add a light source later, so I'm gonna change this up again. But just to let you know, if you place a subject in a new environment, think about where the foot position is and also the shadows and the highlights. What you see me doing here is actually fixing the shadows on the subject. Now this is also a whole lot of trial and error just to see what actually looks good. I messed this up quite a bit, but in the end I was kind of happy with the result. Now since I use so many subjects in my composite, there's so many shadows and highlights that I should fix. So a common misconception is the more images that you use for your composite, the better it's gonna look. It is actually the opposite that is true. So the less images that you use, so in this case less is more, the better your image is gonna look because you don't have to blend so many images together. But since I do like to challenge myself, for this specific composite I will use more than 13 elements, excluding my brushwork. And so for every single one subject, I use 2 or more exposure adjustment layers that are clipped to the subject, one to add the shadows on the subject and one to add the highlights. As you see, working on shadows and highlights to make it a little realistic is a lot of work, and it's probably the most time consuming and the most difficult part of photo compositing. But as mentioned, I will show you my exact thought process and the whole process of working on this image in the full tutorial. So once again, if you're interested, don't forget to leave it down below in the comments. Keep in mind, this is a 2-hour and 45-minute tutorial. The last half an hour I don't really talk anymore because I was just focused on working, but the first full 2 hours I give you live commentary of every single thing that I'm doing. Now, after a few hours, this finally started to look like something, but there was still things missing in the scene. So what I decided to do now is actually add some background and foreground elements so that we had a nicer environment for our animals to live in. Now, as you will notice, once the image is kind of coming together, you will see that it's a lot of back and forth in trying to do new things. So also this elk or moose or whatever it is, I'm just trying to position it to see if it works, to see if it actually adds to the image. Just add some new background elements, try to tweak the colors here and there, maybe add some shadows, maybe add some highlights. And this is basically the process that I'm going through with every single image to make everything look as cohesive as possible. Now the foreground and the background elements that I use in this image are actually to create more depth of field in the image, as well as this fog or haze in the background. It just creates more separation between the background and the foreground. At this point, I was making the final adjustments to the whole image. However, as you will see soon in the end result, I decided to change the position of all the animals and the objects quite a bit because I thought it would look a lot better. However, I did this off camera, but let me show you what I came up with in 3, 2, 1. In the end, I was super happy with the end result. As mentioned, this took me almost 3 hours to create and more than 13 elements, excluding my brushwork. I would love to hear what you think of this composite, and I hope to see you inside of the photo editing challenge. See you soon.